So at this time, let's see, do we have, I think we'll just dive in though. If we don't have Representative Joyce and CATCO, we'll let them just go ahead and join us when they arrive. But for now, let's dive in. Lavinia, if you are ready to go first, we'll take your comments and then we'll go to Gail and then we'll go to Melanie and then we'll open it up to my colleagues for their comments.
Thank you so much, Representative Custer. Look at my screen here.
You're good. We hear you.
Okay. Chairwoman Custer, honorable co-chairs, Congressman Spear, Joyce, Keiko, and Mervyn and Bacon that joined us. Thank you for inviting me to participate today and highlight important issues impacting survivors of sexual violence with a focus on victims of color. My name, as she stated, is Lavinia Masters, and I am the founder and executive director of Hope Saves Ministry. It's an organization that uses innovative and creative ways to purposely empower and sexual assault survivors to find their voices and speak while powerfully partnering with legislators and other entities that carry out the promises to secure justice and safety for all survivors of sexual violence. I also have the bittersweet honor of being a victim of childhood sexual abuse and a heinous and violent rape at the age of 13 years old. I say bittersweet because the effects of sexual violence can leave you tormented and bitter, but when you overcome and find the purpose in your pain, such as myself, it can make your days seem sweeter as you progress as a thriving survivor. Honorable chairpersons, with me finding my purpose within my pain, it has led and allowed me to do bigger and greater things to not only empower me, but to empower other survivors of sexual assault. You see, the barbaric rape that I suffered at the age of 13 was just the first victimization that I endured that night. Later, I learned 21 years later, as Representative Custer spoke earlier about, I suffered a second victimization, and that was finding out that my kit sat on the shelf for over 21 years, having me to miss my turn at justice because I missed 2 statute of limitations after that. And so this purpose-filled journey led me to vow that no other girl, I'm sorry, my little fingers just got excited. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I've lost 2 statute of limitations. So this purpose-filled journey led me to vow that no other girl would suffer at the hands of a rapist and not have justice, answers, the opportunity for healing, and to be empowered. Not another one, but especially my little Black girls. So here I am, a sister warrior, still on this battlefield. One of my greatest badges of honor is, like she said, House Bill 8, the Lavinia Masters Act, an act they passed in the state of Texas to end the rape kit backlog. And yes, you heard it correctly. I am the namesake for this law. I serve the state of Texas Governor's Sexual Assault Task Force, State Representative Victoria Niave Special Task Force for Sexual Violence, and the TASA's first ever Survivor Advisory Board. I mention all of this not to boost myself or my ego, but to encourage other victims and survivors of sexual violence that may be watching or listening, with hopes they will grasp that their testimony before them today in Congress is not just a testimony, but it's for them to find the purpose beyond their traumatic pain, and they can make the impact in lives of those who desire to remove from their own dark brokenness. I share because my boys and my girls to know you as a victim matter, that you have a powerful voice and need to be heard. So refuse to accept what society has fed us for far too long, and that we are to blame for the terrible things that happen to us, especially my little Black girls. Speaking of Black girls and sexual violence, if you give me another minute, I want to share a brief history and some reasons why many victims of color see the injustices served to Black victims of sexual violence are discriminatory and systematically traumatic. Yet I pray that starting today, collectively, we can begin to heal and bridge those gaps while eradicating these behaviors altogether. Their names are Carol Spinks, 13 years old, Darlena Johnson, 16 years old, Brenda Faye Crockett, 10 years old, Nino Miosha Yates, 12 years old, Brenda Woodard, 18 years old, and finally Diane Williams, 17 years old. They were all brutally raped and murdered from April 25th, 1971 to September the 5th, 1972. And all of their bodies were dumped alongside or in the vicinity of I-295 in DC. Their cases went cold and remain unsolved as of today because the evidence that was collected, and I quote, that law enforcement did such a poor job preserving it that nothing could be done with it. Even when DNA analysis came around in 1990, to add insult to injury, as of 2018, no one even knows where this evidence is. And although these tragedies are gut-wrenching for us, gut-wrenching, come on, computer, I'm sorry, love technology, are gut-wrenching for us within themselves. Part of the that disturbed me and still disturbs me is that today, at this very moment, all these girls, all these future queens, all these future women of greatness were Black girls whose lives were stripped from them at such young ages, and Black girls whose history is still stripped from them, because it appears that our America, our justice system, our law enforcement that people of color helped shape and form did and still does not see the value in their precious lives. So they all lie in shallow, unknown graves, gone too soon, and some seem to me forgotten forever. This is what I saw in those unsolved murders of those 6 Black girls: the lack of concern and dismissal of prioritization because possibly, even maybe, the color of their skin. This is what I see when I read the history of Black women then and now when it comes to sexual violence in my country. This is the interpretation that law enforcement and the justice system inadvertently gives out when you fail to prioritize Black girls, rape kits in a timely fashion, when you fail to prioritize safety measures, sexual assault awareness, education, and other healing resources in our rural and impoverished neighborhoods. Our system is guilty of discriminatory behaviors when you imply that all Black girls are supposed to be raped because of their attitudes and cultural backgrounds. Therefore, you are slow to impose swift justice while focusing or destroying our credibility. It is guilty of discriminatory behavior when funding is not available to create more trauma-based hospitals and crisis centers in predominantly Black communities. This discriminatory behavior is destroying our little Black girls, even though they have the desire to be free from sexual violence. Our system fails to bring mandated trauma-informed training and education to peace officers and first responders on how to address, console, and secure the safety of a victim of sexual violence, mental, physical, emotional, and overall well-being after assault. Your honorable chairs, intimidation has no place when dealing with a rape victim. Victim blaming has no place when dealing with a rape victim. Destroying or not collecting evidence has no place when dealing with a rape victim. Minimizing the assault and condescending or sarcastic remarks to the survivor has no place when dealing with a rape victim. Making your own presumptions on how or why the rape occurred has no place when dealing with a rape victim. And finally, but most importantly, none of these behaviors are appropriate when they appear to be more heavily proposed upon Black rape victims. These are the saying of history. They say that history repeats itself, but I know and now confident with the support of our elected leaders that beginning today that we can change and rewrite our history for the greater good. You see that after learning the history of the 6 Black girls that were killed in DC back in the 70s, I saw how easy it was to forget so many other Black girls, from Reese Taylor, Maya Angelou, then poor Aliana DeFries. And that is just one name among thousands of Black girls that you can't even Google because it appears that a Black victim's rape is not even newsworthy. I am determined to help rewrite history today because what I also learned that history repeated itself in my case, as it forgot about me on the shelf for all those years. It failed to provide me with proper resources and counseling. It failed to bring any perpetrator to justice and caused me to miss 2 statute of limitations. It failed to bring education awareness to my impoverished schools and communities so I could have learned and trained and be trained about sexual trauma. My system failed me, this little Black girl that had big dreams and aspirations. So here I am today. I'm still standing and I'm still rewriting her story. And the story started out, little Black girl raped in the West Dallas projects on the night of July 31st, 1985 by an unknown assailant. Evidence collected. She couldn't identify perp in books the next day. Case suspended the day after. To my story now, Lavinia Masters, once a rape victim at 13 years old, identified perp with DNA evidence over 21 years later, fought to get backlog cleared, statute of limitations changed, a better system implemented that led it to the law, and the first to be named after a surviving Black victim, I may add, being implemented in Texas as her namesake, the Lavinia Masters Act. And as she continues to be a voice for victims in Texas, she comes up with creative ideas to reform sexual violence. She also requested a call to action before Congress and our elected officials to reform how rape victims are handled after an assault by destroying any discriminatory behaviors or practices against them, and to take special care with our little Black girls because we too want to have our names a part of this bittersweet, non-biased history. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was incredible. And here you are in front of Congress telling your story.
Thank
That's really incredible.
Thank you.
And I love that line about empowering through your trauma. And
Yes.
I'm also a survivor, and
Yes.
I think it's really an important message is that
Yes.
the advocacy is part of the healing. And I think
Yes, it is.
you've done an amazing job. I
Thank you
really
so
appreciate
much,
you sharing that
Representative
story.
Custer. Thank you.
Now we do have my co-chair, Representative Dave Joyce, I guess had some computer problems. Dave, do you want to make any just short comments at the top? Or if not, we'll keep going. You're going to have to unmute. There we go.
I have a new computer that has no camera and no mic. So
Oh.
I was listening, and then I couldn't believe, I couldn't.
I hate to say that. I hope it's not a metaphor for Congress, but anyway, a computer